Hey, this is Steven Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with Platinum versus Impact from December 15th, 2020, only a few hours ago. I'm already getting on the video. Woo, excuse me. I'm a much better outing for Impact this time, in the sense that they really seem to take much more advantage of Kenny Omega being there and this whole AEW crossover thing. They cut to Omega more than a few times in the bus. That really lent an air of things, and this time they actually paid off the Rich Swann thing instead of just having him rebuffed by a security guard. It just felt like now a thing's happening. They have a match set for the pay-per-view with the Good Brothers teaming with Omega against Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns. They set that up nicely at the end. The Tony Schiavone commercial this time was even more hilarious than last week. So they're going to definitely maintain some buzz. And it happened as it coincided with the news that AEW Dynamite beat Raw in the sheer demographic ratings. More people 18 to 49 watched Dynamite than watched Raw this week. So momentum all over the place. A better show by Impact. Let's go ahead and just go over it really quickly. So in the opening, we had Tennille Dashwood with Caleb with a K, the former Emma, taking on Alicia with Eddie Edwards. Alicia is no great shakes in the ring by any stretch, but at least this showcased some of their women's wrestling. Tennille lays her out with the spotlight kick for the win. So post-match, Sami Callihan's music begins to play. Eddie Edwards wants him, come on out, Sami. Sami, with this hacker nonsense, tells Eddie that their story is far from over. Eddie keeps calling on Sami to come to the ring, but it was a video, bro. That was a little weird. But I guess what else is he supposed to do? There's no crowd to interact with, nothing like that. It's one of the weaknesses that Impact just isn't going to be able to overcome. When you don't have a crowd there, a lot of the interplay and things you do are just going to look silly. It is what it is. Kenny Omega and Don Callis are back for tonight's show. And Carl Anderson, the Omega's former Bullet Club ally, is going to be in action tonight and in the main event. He's going to take on Chris Sabin. So Chris Sabin, they've been doing this 3-step thing where they're beating an individual member from a variety of different tag teams. And so now they're going after Anderson, because Anderson and Doc Gallows are the tag team champions of Impact. There's only room for 2 machine guns in this company, and you ain't one of them. A good promo by the Motor City Machine Guns, by the way. So now we're on the tour bus, and they're firing Carl Anderson up. And Carl Anderson now goes down there as Omega goads him, and he asks Rich Swann if he's seen the Motor City Machine Guns. Swann tells him that he hasn't and that he needs to calm down. Motor City Machine Guns enter and confront Anderson, and he leaves, and they kind of make fun of him for leaving, talking all that smack, but then leaving when they show up. That's nice foreshadowing for what happens later. So now we've got the self-proclaimed TNA World Champion Moose, and hear what he has to say. He says he put Willie Mack on the injury list. Willie Mack comes out. They get separated. So Willie issues an I Quit match challenge, basically, for Genesis, which is Saturday, January 9th. Moose is mad. And then Gia Miller, the backstage interviewer, gets a comment from Moose. I really like the thing he said about, all these indie wrestlers who work as security guards. I thought it was weird for him to say wrestlers, but I like the thing where he said indie wrestlers, security guards, trying to make a name, tore my shirt. Somebody I was watching with pointed out this would have been an ideal time to have Moose squash that security guard in a match, but they didn't do it because, at least there was way less Scott D'Amore this week. Hopefully they took that note and they continue to follow that note. Less Scott D'Amore, better show. Yeah? We still haven't seen any kind of James Mitchell goodness, though. What the fuck? Backstage, Chris Bay is checking in on Raju after his unsuccessful victory to retain his or claim to the X Division Championship on Saturday. Bay has an idea for Raju. You should unmask Manic to reveal that it's TJP underneath the mask and all that stuff. So he goes like, "Oh, that's a great idea." Okay, and then the paid ad happens. It's so fucking great. Tony Schiavone just piles on. And Tony Khan plays that right line of, if you're an AEW fan, you like him. And if you're an Impact fan, you hate him. And he's kind of smarmy, and he's like, I'm going to teach you something about wrestling, Don Callis. And they promote what looks to be a pretty good AEW show, but not overwhelmingly great. But they make it seem like it's overwhelmingly great. And that is cool as well. Kenny Omega, notably, is going to be in action with Joey Janela on Dynamite. And that's 7-on-7 and other stuff, of course. Eric Young, it's this vignette that they go back to on 3 different occasions with Cody Deaner. I didn't hate this either. They're actually building stuff up. Thank goodness. And they had a pay-per-view last Saturday, in case you missed that. And a bunch of stuff happened there. We got Manic against Chris Bay in a match. The match is probably a match like they should have had last week. Very spotty, of course, but, a high energy, high impact match. The matches are at least slightly varying length tonight. Last week, they were almost identical lengths, and it was numbing. This one, there's a great variety to the matches. At the end of this, Chris Bay wins by DQ because he pulls a little trick-a-rooney action and gets himself hit by Raja. A lot of that was a little bit lost on me, if I'm being honest. I got what they were doing mechanically. I don't think it had the impact that it was supposed to. No pun intended. Because, again, there's no crowd and there's no reactions. And that's just really, really tough. They show the return of Sting from Final Resolution in 2006 in their Impact Plus moment of the week. Very interesting. Very much working in lockstep. I was saying that they need to use this Impact Plus stuff in conjunction with what they're doing with AEW, and now it appears that they're doing it. So a lot of notes taken and a lot of things being fixed and shored up and improved. You can't get mad at that. Backstage, Josh Alexander's pacing back and forth. Ethan Page, says he's been looking for him everywhere. Wants to apologize for his loss against Carl Anderson on Saturday. Because of the loss, the North cannot challenge the Good Brothers for a tag team title match in the future. Bummer. Alexander and Page talk it out. Page leaves the room. Brian Myers enters the room and says maybe it's time for him to move past the North and team with a guy like him. Alexander doesn't like the idea. He'd rather fight him. Okay. So, again, there is a lot of this element of when you spend half your show just setting up the other half of your show, you're in a weakened position. And Impact is definitely doing a little of that. But they're also setting stuff up for the future. So that's certainly a good thing. Back on the tour bus, Kenny calls Rich Swann Rich the bitch. Okay, we're escalating that. That's good. Anderson leaves to go get ready for his match. Omega's miffed by how Swan was acting towards Anderson. Says he's sorry for what he's about to do. Oh, foreshadowing. Interesting. Back in the ring, we're going to see which Knockouts tag team is going to advance. Taya Valkyrie, and Rosemary, a favorite of mine, against Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Kiera Hogan looks great here. Tasha does pretty good. There's a lot of brouhaha with distractions and whatnot. I thought it was weird that Taya stayed in the ring for the inevitable take a move and get pinned thing when Rosemary was getting jumped by the Impact Women's Champion and her pal. That part, to me, felt very clunky and forced and fake. At least she didn't get rolled up. But long story short, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz wins. They're going to meet either Jordan Grace and Jazz or Havoc and Nevia at Hard to Kill next month. Eric Young continues to do his thing with Cody Deaner. Again, I really like these vignettes. They're weird. They're different. I'm not sure where they're going. But it feels like something important is happening, and Eric Young is quite the performer, is he not? In the locker room, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz are celebrating good times. They still have one problem to face. Where did the wad of cash go? Johnny Swinger's there. Oh, boy. They leave disgusted, and then he goes through Tasha's luggage to find the big wad of cash that went missing. Looks like Swinger will have quite a rich holiday. He finds the wad of cash, and he's like, it was a good house. He uses all these old school wrestling terms. I get the gimmick. It works. Josh Alexander versus Brian Myers. The long story short is Ethan Page snaps and comes up as Karate Man. What the fuck was this? I will say it was certainly interesting. They're throwing at least all their Impact interesting weirdo crap at this show. They certainly didn't do it last show. Last show was incredibly boring to me. This one, I could describe a number of things, but I wouldn't call it boring. So he costs Alexander the victory, which he isn't happy, but the Karate Man stuff is so ludicrous. Then we get part 3 of the Eric Young and Cody Deaner saga. Cody gets free from his past demons. Interesting, right? AC Romero wants his tag team partner Larry D to be set free after his arrest on Saturday. We established this last week, right? Romero leaves. Tommy Dreamer said he'd heard it before. Tommy Dreamer sees Rhino and Cousin Jake talk about Cody Deaner's betrayal, and they tells them that they should do something about it. All right, and now the main event. Carl Anderson versus Chris Sabin with Alex Shelley. A great match. They really do a good job really putting on a exhibition of great wrestling and what it can be. Really does Impact proud with this. Carl Anderson wins with the old holding on to the tights. And as he's winning, Omega is shown in the bus, which is a bit weird, but I get what they're going for. They're establishing that strong connection. Omega pops for Carl Anderson winning. Rich Swann comes out to talk to Anderson. A big brawl erupts because Swann and Motor City Machine Guns kind of get on Anderson. Doc Gallows comes out and whoops ass, but then Kenny Omega comes out and really whoops ass and decks Rich Swann with the assign. Don Callis says he's got a great idea at Hard to Kill. There's going to be a 6-man match between the Bullet Club, Gallows, Anderson, and Omega, versus Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns. Wow, wow, wow. Big, hairy deal. So, vast improvement on the Impact end, and the AEW thing continues, and they're getting more and more mileage out of all of it. Very exciting stuff. And damn it, just when I wasn't going to watch Impact anymore, they keep pulling me back in. This has been Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum versus Impact.